Garlic, much like potatoes, is a really great crop because once you have it, you're reliant only upon yourself to maintain your supply. It's the first week of October, and what that means for us here in Zone 9A, northern end of the Sacramento Valley, is it's garlic planting time for me. And I like to get it in early because garlic is about an 8.5-month crop. And I like to see the harvest take place before things get entirely scorching hot here in the valley. And so I'm headed down to a nursery to pick up some topsoil. And generally speaking, I produce all of my own compost so that I have that assurance of quality control. But one thing that I'll make note of is that if in fact you're going to bring soil onto your property, ensure that you know the quality of the material that they're producing. And so the place that we're going down to get this soil from is a place that produces consistent compost. It's of organic quality, and I'm very familiar with their product. I've used it in the past. We're gonna head on down there and grab a load, and then I'll be bringing it home, actually introducing that into some of my garden spaces this year. This garden area is completely no-till, and what I've used in here over the last couple of years in order to decompact the soil and aerate it is this broad fork. It's a pretty solid piece of gear. It is made by a company called Meadow Creature, and this one has 12-inch tines on it. It works as simply as just standing on it and then working it back and forth until you bury it all the way, and then just rocking it back and loosening the soil. Brought in about 2 yards of soil over the entirety of this planting space, which gives me somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3 to 4 inches of top dress. And over the course of the next couple of days, I'm going to water this in before I start working these beds up. It's now the following day, and I've taken about an hour to turn all this soil into rows. And before I come through with the final grading, I wanted to show you up close what the soil looks like. All of the wood chips that were put in here last year to aid in weed suppression have been turned into these piles, and as a result you can see a lot of the mycelial development associated with all of that wood chip. All this white stuff is the mycelium and fungal hyphae that has now been incorporated into these mounds. In addition, there's also, you can see there's an awful lot of really good soil aggregation. And with what I've added in here in the last couple of years, just a tremendous amount of biochar and organic material that's been produced here natively on the property. And when I was turning this over, there was a lot of worms that came back from deeper into the soil into this material nearer the surface. And so I'm going to come through with a rake and I'll get this graded down and get it prepared for planting. About half of these beds are going to be planted into garlic. The other half will be planted into onion, but that won't happen until about middle of February. Garlic, much like potatoes, is a really great crop because once you have it, you're reliant only upon yourself to maintain your supply. I've still currently got 3 bags of garlic from last year. I will select the best cloves out of this particular bag. This is a variety called Susanville White. And what I'm looking for are the cloves that are the most symmetrical, the most robust, and the individual cloves that I pull from here to plant hopefully will be the genetic that will reproduce something very similar to this. So this is a pretty solid bulb. This is a good bulb as a representation. This is something that is definitely not going to make the grade by comparison, and will be used for eating, and or it will be dried into garlic powder. So none of it will go to waste. So once these cloves are broken apart, the root end is the portion that's going to go down into the soil, and then this is the portion that's going to be sticking up toward the sky. And you want to leave this paper intact as much as possible. However, it's not the end of the world if it does come off. It'll still grow for you. Spacing on this is very simple. You just want to leave enough room so that this will have room to develop. And what I use as a basic template or a guide is simply just my fist. So that's going to give me 5 or so inches in width, but 5 to 6 inches in between the individual cloves that you're planting. And then as far as depth, that's going to largely be dependent upon your climate, your area. But generally speaking, I like to go 4 inches. So I'll use, just the depth of my finger sticking down into the soil. If you're in an area where it's susceptible to freezing and hard frost, you might want to go a little bit deeper. But I like to cover it with at least 4 inches of soil here in zone 9A. I've got about 100 cloves here that will be getting planted. This is just all of the paper and the chaff. So again, the pointy end up, the root side goes down, and it goes right in the hole. Gets pushed in. Go just that quick. Got about 70 cloves of the Susanville white set to the correct depth. And all I do from this point is just cover it lightly with the loose soil. And then this will get watered in. And this will be the home for this garlic for the next 8.5 months. Garlic and onion really don't like a lot of competition from weeds. So it's a really good idea to come through and mulch over the top of this, not only to suppress the weeds, but to retain all of the moisture. One thing I'll make mention of is that if you're bringing in mulch from an outside source like straw or something like that that you purchased, make sure that you know that it's come from a source that hasn't been treated with an herbicide that can provide a harmful, long-lasting effect to your soil quality. What I prefer to use is wood chips in the walkways, and then over the top on the rows where the garlic's going to be punching through, I'll use leaves that I've collected here from the property. And so I have good confidence that there's not going to be anything in that that's going to provide me any issues. So just be aware of that, and thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.